All right, so I recently had an interview that went super well, and I got one of the best pieces of feedback I've ever received. So I wanted to do a quick share of the three best pieces of feedback I've received in interviews over my 30 plus years of working in this world. So the first piece was shortly fresh out of college. So I worked at McDonald's through high school and through college. And after I finally got my degree, it took me years to get my degree, working full time, taking care of my younger sister, overload, lost my mom doing school. So that set me back a little bit because couldn't concentrate and failed a couple of semesters, all that good stuff. But after I graduated with that bachelor's degree, my dream at the time was to become basically phenom young store manager at McDonald's. My goal was to basically move up the ranks. In school I was already a chef manager, and so I wanted to become basically a salary manager, and then work my way up to store manager, and eventually a district, manager or whatever, and own my own restaurants. That was my early goals on, basically owning my life. And the district manager, the store I worked at was a corporate store. So we had, basically policy training, policy module training. My management was basically corporate. Everything was corporate. So I've been like a corporate person all my life. Everything was out of Chicago. Here in Milwaukee, everything was out of Chicago. And we were like a show store. So when the big people came from Chicago to look at how Milwaukee was running its operations, my store was one of the stops, if not the only stop in Milwaukee. So the district manager that had this store, I quite admired him. I had known him since I first started pretty much working at McDonald's. So he was well aware of who I was and my work ethic and basically my desires with the company. And this would have been early 2000s. And I remember asking, as he was, discussing me coming on as a salary manager with my new fresh bachelor's degree, he asked me what was my ask for salary. And I said either 32,000. I think I said 32,000, maybe 32 or 34. It wasn't like a lot, but it was a lot for me at that time. Mind you, I started at $3.45, okay, per hour. It was and so I think I asked like at the going rate for my area for a college degree was like around 30K and some change, right? So I asked for 32 or $34,000. Maybe it was 32. And he said, I'll pay you 28,000. I said, oh, okay, I'll take 28,000. And he just looked at me. He reached out, shook my hand. I shook on it. I was excited, slightly disappointed, really wanted to start at over 30. But I was like, listen, if this is what I can get, I'll take it. And as soon as we shook on it, he said, LaShonda, I would have paid you whatever you asked. All you had to do was stick to your number. In front of me, young, dumb, well, not dumb, but very young and inexperienced, wanted to ask, like, can I do a do-over? Like, can we go back and you give me the number I asked for? But I was like, well, dang, what a hard lesson to learn, And he was like, well, we shook on it, so that's what it is. But that has stuck with me. Oh my gosh, it's been over 20 years. But that has stuck with me. And I will tell you that I have learned to ask for my number. And I'm not greedy. It's like I'll calculate what my living expenses are. I'll calculate what my vacations are going to cost me. I'll calculate what my hobbies are. And I'm like, okay, this is what I need to pay my bills comfortably, not to look for a second job or, to do the things that I want to do just because I want to do them and not to struggle check to check. And that's the number I ask for. And I will tell you, whenever there have been jobs where, I don't necessarily get the ask, but if I'm asking for money and you're telling me you can't do it, then you're not the person I need to work with. If I don't care about what the number is, whatever. But if I care about the number, we're not going to work well together. And I'll let you know that up front. Well, I'll do this for as long as it works and we're done. That was number one. And I'm so sorry. I'm sweating profusely. But it's like 90 degrees and I closed the windows because my neighbors are already celebrating Labor Day with loud music. But so quickly. The second piece, I think, might be what I just received, but I think this one bumped number 2 to number 3. So I'll give you number 3. Number 3 was when shortly after moving to New York City, my second permanent job. I had worked for Citigroup for about 6 months at this point as a temp, and I probably had 6 different assignments within that 6-month period for different departments. And the last assignment was supporting the chief auditor of the bank, who reported to the vice chairman of the corporation. So God has always placed me well. I mean, I have no complaints about placement here. So her name was Bonnie Howard. She was amazing, and she was from Iowa, so she was a fellow Midwesterner in the big city, and we bonded over that. And oh my gosh, there's more, because Bonnie gave me amazing advice. So Bonnie, I forgot about this. So I was covering for her sick admin, and her admin was on medical leave. And her admin was like, I mean, think Devil Wears Prada diva ridiculousness. Like, she was just that mean, old, nasty woman that would bite you down to size just because you existed. And she would call me and make sure I was doing my job correctly so I wouldn't embarrass her when she came back to the job. So she was checking me from the sick bed, basically. And I mean, to the point where I thought that I basically had to play ball with, not get nasty back with her, but basically check everybody else to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, because I'm working for this big woman, you know, in the company. And Bonnie must have peeped that. She saw that my effervescence was diminishing, and that I was starting to communicate with people in a way that people were communicating with me. And she pulled me into her office one day, and she said, "LaShonda, I think you're doing a phenomenal job. I think you will go places." She said, "But I want you to know that you do not have to do what others do to keep this job." And I looked at her. And she didn't like come out and say, "You don't have to be like my old admin." But she basically said it. She said, you know, she does a good job. She does her work, but she has a particular personality, and she comes from a certain generation. You do not have to be that. You can be who you are, and you can work as you are, and you would do just as well, if not better, than her or anyone else on this floor. And I said, "Thank you so much, Bonnie, for that." It was like a relief. Because I was suffering from imposter syndrome, basically. Here I am, fresh out of the Midwest, which is like country. Could have been a country bumpkin to a New Yorker. Had been in the city for maybe a year. And I had a bachelor's degree, but I had no connections. I knew nobody. And I'm literally working on an executive floor with people running one of the biggest corporations in the world. And the way the executive assistants were functioning was cutthroat. I mean, it was solid. Not all of them, but some of them. Like, you knew who to steer clear of if you needed signatures, if you needed cooperation, if you needed to get your boss in a meeting, or if you need to get their boss in a meeting. Like, you knew, like, okay, I'm not going to kowtow, but I might bend your ear a little bit, or I might offer something like, "How can we get this done, lady?" You know? But Bonnie snatched me up, and she was like, "Nope. You do not have to become like these other women. You can be who you are. You can keep your heart. You can keep your mind. You can just be LaShonda." And I was like, "Thank you for saying that." I told her in a moment, "Thank you for saying that," because I felt myself adjusting, and I didn't necessarily like the adjustment. So that was huge. But the piece that I remembered was Bonnie walked me down to Liz. And Liz became my first permanent manager at Citigroup. So she was the new hire from outside the firm. And her first office was down the hall from Bonnie. And when Bonnie got word that her admin was coming back off medical leave, she said, well, there's a new executive on the floor who is from outside and she needs an admin, and I will walk your resume down to her if you are willing for me to do so. I said, absolutely, please do. And Liz called me for an interview, and me and Liz hit it off so well. Like, I mean, if there could be, goodness, soulmates for work, Liz was it. I think we both had such a love fest with each other. It was just like phenomenal. But during the interview, so here's a woman, lives in Connecticut, middle-aged, teenage, pre-teen children, married. Her husband's also an attorney, a corporate attorney also. So you think that just money oozing out of them, Tony folks from Connecticut coming to the city to work, the background is just pedigreed. It's just ridiculous. And so we're talking, and it turned out we went to the same school in France. We both went to the Sorbonne in Paris. And I went for a semester. She probably went for a semester at some point, or maybe she was there for a year. But we had both studied in Paris. And we were both lovers of French civilization and Parisian culture. And we talked about that. And I was like, well, look at God. Like, who would have thought that I would be chopping it up about France and Paris and school and education in an interview on Park Avenue, fresh out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and be able to carry the conversation. And we spoke so well about our interests and about what she needed and about what I could provide and what I could do. At the end of the interview, she said this to me. She said, okay, obviously, I have applications from people with 15, 20, 30 years experience. And, obviously a lot of qualified applicants. She said, but I like you. And I can teach you what you need to know. I can't teach chemistry, and we have good chemistry. And I said, I agree. And that's how we move forward. I was hired. I stayed with the company for close to 11 or 12 years. And it was, to this day, I say City treated me so well. The company did really good by me. I had a good life in New York because of this company. And Liz and, Bonnie was the catalyst. Just good people being good to people, and telling me that I can continue to be good to people no matter which rooms and halls and corporations and levels I'm walking across through or with or whatever. Just be who I am. So those were the best pieces of advice I've received. Ask for what you want and stick to it. Be who you are, and just vibe with your chemistry and your energy. So this week's piece of feedback from an interview was for a teaching position. Announcement. I am, so my transition, I've been saying I'm transitioning. So I'm still transitioning. So this is also a transitional job, but this job of all things is as a high school English teacher. But I knew teacher was going to be somewhere in my future. I just didn't see it here in Milwaukee. So anyway, I interviewed for this substitute teaching position that's going to actually turn permanent. So I'll be here for a little bit. The principal, the follow-up call after the interview, it was a Zoom interview. He said, as soon as I got off the phone, I told my assistant principal, I have to have her in the building. She has to be in the building. In whatever capacity she wants to be here, she has to be in the building. And I said, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And so he said, so the job you interviewed for, which was substitute art teacher, is yours. He said, that's yours. If you want it, it's yours. He goes, but I have options. LaShonda loves options. I told him that. I said, I love options. He said, I have options I want to run by you. And if any of these options appeal to you, let me know. And one of the options was English teacher who's retiring needs to be replaced. And he said, basically it would be a full year. And if you want this role, I would figure out how to get you licensed and we will move on from there. And I said, oh, I said yes to the English teacher. I said, I've been thinking about traveling. Well, I didn't tell him I was thinking about traveling. But I told him, I said, I wanted to get my ESL license, teaching English as a second language license, so I could teach English as a second language. And my idea behind that is to travel, and that's how I would support myself in other countries. And he said, oh, he goes, well, you're the second teacher in the room is in charge of the ESL program, so you two should hit it off really well. I was like, God, it's so good. Like everything is lining up, and I just love life right now. So all that to say, I hope you got the lessons. I hope you got what the feedbacks were, right? So the most prominent one was the earliest one, which was, when asking for the money that you want for your labor, know your number, stick to your number. If someone values you, they will pay that number, period. And if they don't value you, you know where you stand and you know how much to give in return, if anything, okay? The second one was be who you are, wherever you are. You do not have to adapt your personality and your personhood to your environment. Just show up as you are all the time, and people will adapt to you. Your environment adapts to you. It embraces you as you are. The other one was, when there's chemistry, when there's a good match with people, work is so much easier. Everything is easy, and you will be able to, it's not so important to know how to do the details. The details are always going to be instruction based. Anybody can read instructions. Anybody can learn step by step, but you can't always get along with everybody you're working with. So when you have someone who you get along with, who you work well with, who you want to work well with, seize that, because that will make work just fly by. I mean, honestly, it was such a pleasure working for Liz. Always a pleasure working for Liz. And the other is, go where you are wanted. I swear, it's not since, well, there was Anita. She wanted me to work with her too. Anita was a pleasure. But not since City has someone championed me so well and wanted me to be in their space, so that I can bring whatever I have to give to their environment to enrich it. And that's beautiful to me. And I'm sure I'm going to be stressed out and cursing on some future videos, talk about these high school kids. I'm sure. But right now, today, I'm ecstatic for everything to come. Be blessed as you go. Know who you are. Be who you are. Show up as you are. And watch the world just conform to your energy. Be blessed.